Thank you, everybody, for joining me today. Not just me, but the Vracas team and everybody else and all the partners. Today, we're going to be talking about production management, specifically getting to know Sage production management. This is brought to you by Vracas Blum, of course, and then me, Scanco Software. Well, I'm not Scanco Software, but I'm Phillip. I work for Scanco Software. So, it's not just an empty thanks. We know you guys are busy. We know you got a lot going on. And I know I get bombarded by opportunities to go to webinars and look at things all the time. So if I actually take the time to sit down and do it, it means it's important to me. So I do sincerely appreciate that. So we've got an hour scheduled. Like I said, we're a little behind. So we'll see if we can do some catch up. But, there's a lot of information you need to get out. So you'll have lots of questions. This is going to be a lot, but you've got your Vracas rep and you've got me after this to kind of work you through some of those issues. So at the end of this session, you're going to know the preliminary difference between our legacy work order, which is the work order software that's been around for a long time, and then new production management, which is the migration pathway for work order clients, and then the new step-based manufacturing software from Sage. How are we going to do that, though? I mean, there's a lot. So, of course, we're going to work. Oh, let's go. We're going to do it methodically. We're going to step through it. We're going to build one block on another. So at the end, you've got a firm launch point to make decisions that are best for your organization, right? So I'm going to start with talking a little bit about Scanco and why we're involved and why I'm here telling you about this rather than maybe a Sage rep. I'll tell you a little bit about our history. What we've been through, because that's important to kind of establish why we're here and how we got here. We'll talk about the Sage manufacturing modules. We're going to look at production management versus work order. We're actually going to go in and kind of look transaction functionality piece by functionality piece and go through them, and you'll get the recording so you can refer back to them. So that'll be a good piece for you guys. And then we'll jump into production management, take a look at that. Do an overview of production management, give you a little taste, get you ready for what's coming. All right, so there I am. You saw my picture. Why are you listening to me? Why am I here? So for the last 3 years, I eat, sleep, and breathe manufacturing and distribution, right? So I'm an account manager over here at Scanco. I'm dealing with customers on the ground level, working through their pains, their roadblocks, their issues, their concerns, and helping them put together a software automation package or module package that helps them get the most out of Sage, right? I do that in conjunction with partners across the country and customers across the country. So every day it's a different story, but we see it all, we go through it all. So I'm in the trenches. That's why I'm out here. Why Scanco? All right, what's Scanco got to do with all this? Well, I'm not going to read this, but a couple points. Since 1989, that's 32 years, we've been an OEM developer for Sage, right? We've been writing software. We've been working directly with Sage. That's a long-term relationship, and that carries a lot of weight and value across the channel. From basic barcoding to the most complex distribution and manufacturing options, that's us. We're focused on providing top-tier, fully integrated automation solutions built specifically for your Sage ERP, right? So like I said, I eat, sleep, and breathe manufacturing and distribution. That's because I work here at Scanco, and that's what we do. Right? The funny thing is, a lot of y'all out there might already own or have used Scanco software in the past, right? Mobility for barcode. So if you're doing imports through the barcode tables at any point, we developed and wrote that software. If you're running your work order and you have some of those old work order efficiencies, make to order, which we'll talk about a little later, outside processing and scheduling, those are all products under the Scanco wing. Not only that, we have our multi-bin software out there and our warehouse automation software. So, we got our hands in a lot of different areas, but all revolving around manufacturing and distribution, and all revolving around Sage. Why is that important? We're not working in multiple different ERPs. We're not We're not trying to, cast our web so wide we can't specialize. We're all in for Sage, right? So Thomas Edison said, "There's a way to do it better. Find it," right? So this is what we do. So this is our history here, and I told you a little bit about us, but let's actually look into that and why that's important. And a couple points I want to put out here, as you see, in '89 we were founded, but in '92 we actually wrote the barcode module, right? And went into an agreement with Sage, right? A little down the line, we brought out the automation series to help automate some of the Sage transactions. In between 2015 and 17 was a busy year. We acquired JobOps and JOScan. I know they go under different names, but that's what you guys will know. And brought ACS multi-bin group under our wing. And what we started to do is we started to bring all those products and integrate them into Sage, eliminating all these external databases and third-party programs and different systems you have to maintain, and bringing everything into Sage, right? We want to make things easier. There's a better way to do it. Find it. We're providing the options. It's up to you guys to kind of, work with your partner and find out what's best for you. Just recently, you'll see we released PM Plus, and we expanded our Sage offerings, right? So we're dedicated to Sage. We're staying with Sage, and we're going to be developing software for the Sage marketplace based on your demand and your needs, right? So it's all about innovation and development, right? We're constantly innovating, constantly developing. We're not sitting back and getting complacent and saying, "Hey, we're good to go, just leave it be." We want more. We've been helping customers get the most out of Sage all this time, and we plan to continue doing so. All right, let's talk about the Sage manufacturing modules. I'm going to spend a little extra time on this because, to be honest, I spend a lot of time dealing with customers and partners on this right here. There's been a lot of confusion as to the naming conventions and what's happened, but we're gonna set the score straight right here. I'm gonna go through this twice, and you're gonna have a recording, and we're gonna share this to the world, so everybody's gonna be on the same page. So pre-2016, right? Legacy software. You had your work order module, you had JobOps, and you had your field service and dispatch, right? Your work order module was your make to stock, step-based manufacturing. Your JobOps was your make to order, capacity and scheduling based manufacturing. In 2018, JobOps was renamed to Sage 100C manufacturing. Okay, nothing else changed. Work order is the same. Field service and dispatch was the same. Now, in 2019 is when things got a little tricky, because 2019 is when production management came out. So production management came out and was the migration pathway for work order. So the name work order changed to production management, but both software sets still existed out there. You had to either upgrade from work order to production management, or when you're a new customer coming in, you're purchasing production management and moving forward. Sage 100C manufacturing did not change names in 2019, nor did field service and dispatch for JobOps. But in 2020, there was a name change. Sage 100C manufacturing changed to operations management, right? So we've got production management stayed the same from work order. We've got now operations management. Operations management went from JobOps to Sage 100C manufacturing to operations management. And in operations management, field service and dispatch. So field service and dispatch kept its name, but it did not carry the JobOps. So the JobOps name has fell off. Everybody knows the JobOps name and refers to operations management as JobOps a lot, but it does cause some confusion. So moving forward, there are 3 Sage manufacturing modules: production management, operations management, and operations management field service. Okay, so work order is the legacy software that is now called production management. If you're currently using work order, you're going to migrate up to production management. That doesn't mean you have to. You might be moving to one of the other manufacturing modules. You might move off of production management and onto operations management. You might move from work order to operations management, so on and so forth. But these are the naming conventions. I'm going to go through it real quick one more time. You might think, well, that's silly. But I got to say it again, because we do spend a lot of time going through this. Your legacy work order module out of Sage is now called production management. Any new customers coming in will be purchasing production management. Any legacy customers looking to upgrade to the newest software and staying with the same capabilities will be upgrading to production management. Work order is still supported for the next few years via Sage. Please, stay in touch with your Vracus rep to stay on top of those compliancy dates, but you can stay on work order for a few more years from what I understand. Job Ops moved to Sage 100C manufacturing, stayed Sage 100C manufacturing for a year or two, and then is now operations management. And then your Job Ops field service and dispatch is now operations management field service. Appreciate everybody sitting through that. It might seem silly, but I guarantee in the next couple weeks or a month, as you are having these conversations, you're going to bump into somebody that has some confusion. You're going to have some confusion yourself. You're going to go back to this slide and this time, and you're going to know exactly what's going on. So that's good. That's a big part of what we do and a big part of what the customers do, just the naming conventions. Because once you get the naming conventions down, you can actually start to understand the functionality, because if you're calling it one thing and you're talking about another, we're just muddying the water, and we want to try and keep things as simple as possible. So let's talk about the Sage manufacturing option we're here to discuss, right? Which is production management. We're not really going to touch much on operations management or field service and dispatch, because this is the star of the show, right? Sage production management. Where do I get it from? How do I get this? Well, you get the base software, the inventory requirements planning, if applicable, the mobility for manufacturing barcode, and potential shop floor users all through Sage via your Vracus representative or whatever your business contract dictates. So production management as a software, what we're talking about, the core module inside of Sage is bought, sold, supported via Sage and your Sage ROR. Now, just like work order, there's some add-ons to production management that give some additional efficiencies, right? And those you get through Scanco, right? So we inherently are involved in the manufacturing and distribution automation industry. So we're OEM developers for Sage. So it's natural that we provide the enhancements for production management. So we have Manufacturing 100, which is the shop floor scanning, right? You see shop floor scanning from Sage, but we have Manufacturing 100, which is the fully built out scanning solution for your production management module. Shop floor is designed to be a light offering that gives you a taste of the automation. We definitely recommend you check that out. And then multi-bin, right? So if you're not familiar with multi-bin, I would say it as true WMS, warehouse management, allows multiple locations inside your warehouse for advanced reporting or tracking or routing, control, flexibility, permissions, restrictions, really how you can really get granular on how you manage the ins and outs of your warehouse. Production management is fully integrated with both the standard, which is the free, and the advanced premium version. You get those both through us as well. Vracus is very well versed in multi-bin standard and premium and handles a lot of that themselves as well. So you might be working directly with them on that. Doesn't have to come through Scanco, because they're our valued and trusted partner as well. And we work hand in hand on these projects. So, whoever's in a better situation to help you guys and do the implementation clean and get the training done, we're gonna make that decision. And then finally, our make to order. So, work order and production management are designed to be make to stock manufacturing software sets. So we're making items for inventory, right? At the end of whatever process has been designated, we are going to be entering items into inventory and then, either consuming those or shipping those out or whatever it is. What production management hasn't had until now is the ability to create work tickets from the sales order line, right? So production management, you're creating work tickets through the actual production management module, just like in work order. You create a work ticket and you release that work ticket and you go complete work on that ticket. Production management allows you to do that same exact way, so you can operate exactly the same. But also, if you want to add in make to order functionality through PM Plus, we can allow you to create work tickets from the actual sales order line. So if you want to hear more about any of these things, you know to talk to Sage and your Vracus rep about the base software, the IRP, the mobility barcode module, and shop floor users. And you come talk to Scanco about the manufacturing 100 scanning, the multi-BIM, or the make to order functionality. It's important, really, I mentioned a couple times, it's a team effort here. You know, it's not one group can do it all. So it's going to be a group effort to make sure that things are set up and installed and configured correctly. There are expansive user manuals and guides and install protocols, and it's very critical that they're followed to the letter. So please make sure you're working closely with your Vracus rep when you're working with production management, or really when you're working with anything in your Sage 100 ERP. Make sure you do diligence and keep them involved, because it's true effort. We all help each other. We all back each other up. We're all in this together. So it's just one big happy family. All right. I told you I wasn't going to talk much about operations management, but it is important just to kind of drive a high level difference between the two. You know, the star of the show is production management over here, and some of the high level functionality offerings for production management are, of course, the make to stock, you know, making inventories of stock. Now we do make to order, right? And your make to stock means that your manufactured items are being returned to inventory once completed. With production management, we've got very little need for customization. We can run templates and bring in bill options and set up some customizations to our stock inventory items. But you know, if we get real heavy into customizations and really robust compound customizations, you know, we might want to start looking at a different software set. And if we need to explode sub-assemblies into parent item work tickets, that's all production management functionality. So your make to stock software. Now on the other end is going to be your make to order software. Some will say, well, it's more robust. It just operates different. And when I say make to order, I do this a lot, and I'll just take a step back for a second. Make to order doesn't necessarily mean you make it when they order it, because they can order 500 chairs and you just make those 500 chairs to inventory and you sell those 500 chairs. That is actually make to stock. You made it for that order, but you didn't make it to order. Make to order is like a fire truck. You're not going to build fire trucks and keep them in inventory. You know, they are going to order a fire truck set up a very specific way. Maybe this one has a ladder, you know, or whatever else it is. You're going to build that as you go, and you're going to deliver that truck, and you're going to, based on your processes and how you do it, invoice and bill and update and track along the way, right? So that's kind of the difference between your make to stock and your make to order, right? So it's important. Remember, make to stock, you're putting in inventory, selling it out. It can be custom, you can make changes, but it's in inventory before it goes out. Make to order, fire trucks, custom. You're not carrying that inventory. We're working with someone who makes custom bomb shelters, right? Everyone's a little different and set up for a very specific configuration. So they're not just going to have all these bomb shelters in stock. They're going to build them as they come. They're going to send them out. All right. Production management is also not going to help you perform repair work or maintain service agreements with preventative maintenance or track warranties and some of those other things. Those are not built into production management. You might have other third-party software sets that allow you to do that in Sage, but production management will not assume those responsibilities. Those would be something that would be more in operations management, formerly known as JobOps, still up there, or Sage 100 Cloud. All right. Another note, there's for all you compounding and chemical folks out there, there is a 6 decimal precision enhancement that's been around for a while. That's no problem here either. I've gotten asked that a few times, so I figured I'd toss that in here, make sure you guys know we can go 6 decimals on the production. So Sage production management versus legacy work order. I missed one. Sorry about that. So how do you know it's the right choice? We just talked about the high levels, right? Let's talk about this a little more, because we're going to move off of this and we're going to start talking about legacy work order versus production management, and then we're going to actually get into production management. So this is some information that needs to be spent time on, because you're going to be asking these questions. Your partner is going to be asking these questions. Your Veracruz rep is going to be asking these questions. So you want to make items in inventory. Remember, we talked about chairs versus fire trucks, right? Now, if you do have bill of materials and you want to create work tickets and your bills have options, we can incorporate those bill options. That's why you have a little bit of customization in there, but not full-on customization. You need to explode the sub-assemblies, right? We talked about that, into a single work ticket where the parent item is being made. So if you need scheduling, production management is going to provide some date-based scheduling, but it's not going to do resource or capacity-based scheduling, right? So if you're looking at, employee times or work center constraints, that's going to be your more a different software solution. If you need advanced configurators to determine what components need to be assigned to this order that comes in, this is going to be if you're looking to do a make to order. Hey, we want to use production management, but we want to be able to make work tickets from the sales order line. If you need this is where I talked about the fire truck. If you really need advanced configuration to determine the materials and steps and quantities and compositions, you need to have a conversation with your Veracruz rep, make sure you're looking in the right direction. Again, warranty or service work. If you want to send techs out into the field and track parts or contracts that they're using, or if you need the ability to track and sell service agreements. These are all things that do not live natively in production management. So, if those are any of the needs that you have, and those are critical to your business, we need to have a conversation. Now, there's that 80-20 rule that's out there, and it somewhat fits into here that, you might not ever be able to get 100% of your issues. 80% works though, and then you can kind of figure out the other 20%. So maybe you're looking at all these things and say, oh, this is great for everything except this one piece. Well, software is designed by code. It's not necessarily flexible inherently. We can modify, adjust, and change the code, but the code is the code. So, you need to find the software that checks the most appropriate boxes for you, and then decide what you want to do about the boxes that are not checked. It's very rare that anything in this world really satisfies all of our needs when we're looking at a product or a service. We're always looking at, compromising one thing or another. So same with software, same with Sage, same with production management, Scanco, Veracruz, right? That's why it's a team effort for everybody to kind of come together, take a look at the whole picture, make sure we're looking at all the different third parties that are involved, looking at your processes, looking at the future, looking at the past, to make sure you're making the right decision. Don't do it alone. Make sure you do it with your Veracruz rep or someone over here at Scanco. All right, we're back on track. So let's talk Sage production management versus legacy work order. All right. So now we got a little bit of a better understanding of the current Sage offerings: production management, operations management, field service and dispatch, and a few of the differences. Let's break down the differences between legacy work order and Sage production management. So it's really important that I deliver this information precisely, right? So I'm going to do my best to stick to the script. I'm always getting off and giving examples, which I think is nice, but sometimes I need to, I'll make sure I get through and get this information to you so we can get it all out for the recording. All right, so this next series of slides is designed to show you functionality stacked up between legacy work order and production management. You'll see what I mean when we get over here. So let's talk about some overall feature differences. All right, and the idea with all of these is we're just making it more user-friendly, okay? We're giving you more options, just more intuitive options, like sizable windows. You can I know you can actually see and adjust the size of the windows, and you have access to the user-defined fields and tables. You know, a big part of what we can do is the dynamic inventory. If you're looking at moving to Sage 100C, which most people are, and we're moving everybody's moving to subscription offerings, you're going to be able to have real-time updating of inventory transactions in the actual work order screen. So as soon as you issue those parts in that work order entry screen, it's going to consume them from inventory. So, you know, a lot of people, it takes a while to get those postings through, so that inventory is hung up on that ticket for a long time. If that's an issue for you, we might have some solutions. There's a lot of additional enhancements inside the security reportings and settings and all of that, and we'll get to some of those. But overall, we're just making it easier to use, easier to pull reports from, easier to navigate. We give you additional controls, right? So in the setup and configuration, all right, custom field labels throughout the application define within the setup options. So if you don't want it called a work ticket, you can call it a work order. You can call it a work order, you can call it a work ticket. So it gives you some additional controls. The work ticket class is another layer of control that we give you for additional analytics and manufacturing efficiencies. Status codes are new, right? So control your work ticket steps via status, release work ticket steps via status. You know, we're making it easier to at a glance see exactly what's going on in your manufacturing process. Some additional overhead and direct cost calculations, and we're allowed to, and general alias items are tracked on materials tab and can be used. So we can now use general alias items. So setup and configuration gives you some more options on how you want production management to interact with the rest of your modules and the rest of your processes in Sage. Now, in the actual work ticket creation headers and totals, we're going to give you additional data for reporting and analytics, right? So data is king. You know, your ability to forecast and you know, take a look at historical data and make decisions that are going to be, you know, effective and prudent. You need access to data, and access to data doesn't mean going into the file room and digging through a million records trying to figure out what's going on. The idea is get it all inside of Sage. So, you know, I'll show you. See, I got off on a tangent. I got to keep to it. So we can create work tickets from a number of different sources now, right? Templates, open work tickets. We can actually go and create them from historical work tickets. Or if we just need to make a new work ticket, like I talked about, we can just go in and create a work ticket. We incorporate special items. We can do those as parent items. We'll talk about, I can do it as a component as well. We give you additional analytics on how the actual work ticket was created. So if it was from a template or if someone made it manually, we give you access to that. Original and revised budgets for labor, materials, and other direct costs. Our totals tab, which you'll see at the end, gives you an overall snapshot of the budget versus actual cost. So it's going to be tabulating everything up for you and giving you a bird's eye view of what's happening. And then also if anything's been deleted, work ticket steps or materials, you'll be able to see that too. So bringing more data into Sage to bolster your reporting. Now, work ticket templates, right? So we can create work ticket templates to be reused. We can create revisions to those work ticket templates. Like I talked about those customizations. Maybe this chair only has 3 legs. So this revision 001 is the 3-legged chair. So if someone wants a 3-legged chair, I can go to that work ticket and I can just, that work ticket template, I can use revision 001 and I got me a 3-legged chair. We can scale labor and materials by production run or quantity per parent item. We can also attach a path for, you know, instructions or calculations or a document or some sort of configuration. So a pathway for related documents. And then we've extended the work order number length, and we've extended the work number step length as far as how many digits you can have. So you can have up to 12-digit work order number and up to a 6-digit work order step. So that's a lot of work order steps if you've got a 6-digit work order step. But if you need you can track 999 steps if you want. All right, so activity codes, we talked about these, right? So this is an additional layer on top of the work ticket that allows you to capture information as far as how many work tickets are going through that work center and anything else that needs activity code that needs to be brought in. You see overhead rates available by activity code. So you can search for that through activity codes. And then you can assign regular earning codes and overtime earning codes to shop employees, right? So you can assign earning codes to an activity code, and if that activity code is being used, it's going to recognize those earning codes. So there's a lot of different ways you can set up, you know, the financial runnings of your production runs, you know, by employee, by staff, by activity center. So there's a lot of mixing, matching of it. So work with your Vracus partner to identify what's going to be the best for you, what you need to see, what analytics makes sense for you. We'll get into some of the transactions, and we'll talk about transactions real quick. It looks like production management has less transactions. What happened? Wait a minute, how are you going to take transactions away? Well, the reason why the transactions are here is this. All work ticket transactions are still available, but do not require data entry transactions, right? So a register to be updated. So, you know, like a material issue will sit in the work ticket transaction has to be updated, right? We've eliminated some of that and created some dynamic transactions. For example, no longer a transaction to release a work ticket, right? I can just flip the status, which is new, our status code. And depending on how I have my statuses set up, I can use status to control releasing of the work ticket without an actual hard transaction. I can define whether materials and or labor transactions post the general ledger in detail or full summary. Release a work ticket by changing status, right? There it is, no register update. So depending on what Sage software set you roll out, you might have dynamic inventory and dynamic labor, right? Those are two more transactions that we remove. So if you're on subscription, like we talked about earlier, when you consume materials for a work ticket inside the work ticket entry screen, you don't have to post that transaction. It's dynamic. So it's not going to sit in the work ticket transaction entry. It's actually going to be dynamic on that work ticket screen. So you have the capability of taking your transactions all the way down to 4. It doesn't have to be. You still have some control over how you want some of these things to operate. So again, like I say, it's important to work closely with your Vracus rep or your Scanco rep to understand exactly what you need and how you need to be set up. Work ticket steps and labor. So some differences on our work ticket steps and labor. Work ticket steps and material are fully editable, right? When a work ticket is closed, until the work ticket is closed. So you used to not be able to edit that work ticket. You know, it was what it was, but now we've given you, and for me, growing up with production management, that seems pretty standard. So for those of you who are stuck dealing with some of these legacy work order constraints, I feel your pain. And, you know, I understand what you're going through. So, you know, just the ability to move around the steps and move around the materials or add in tables and take some of these things out is probably going to be somewhat life-changing for some of you. We've included extended text field for work instructions, all right? Defaults from the template by step. We can assign statuses to individual steps. We talked about controlling a work ticket via the status, but we can also assign statuses to the individual steps and control the steps. If I put a step on hold or close a step down, no one's going to be able to transact against that step. So, you know, additional controls, expanded capabilities on your manufacturing line. It's really easy to renumber steps, and it's easy to issue. We can issue POs for outside processing right in there on that work ticket step by the click of a button, a checkbox, which I'll show you, and we can issue a PO straight from the screen. So building out the functionality of work order, and really all this functionality came from what you guys want and need. You know, and all the issues that we've come with over the years. We developed the functionality to enhance the legacy work order based on the contract via Sage. So our labor transactions, right? So we can do, so on the top here, this instant recording a labor transaction to work ticket as labor transactions are entered, no update register required. That's for your Sage 100C. That's your subscription, folks, right? That's that dynamic labor and that dynamic inventory. A few more differences. We can actually do labor entries by crew. We can track quantities being made by step and labor transaction. We can define whether work performed comments are captured with labor entry. So we can capture comments, we can capture quantity completed. Now that's not actually a quantity completed, it's just a data identifier. We can track labor for a crew. So a lot of additional capabilities on where your labor is coming from and how you're transacting your labor and what you can actually do and track. Let's talk about materials before we get to the material transactions. It's really easy to move materials from one step to another, just like it's easy to move the steps. Material costing estimates based on items last, standard, or average cost, well, all three of those. We can identify materials that need to be purchased directly on a work ticket, right on a work ticket step. We can say, hey, purchase this. Track promise date on individual materials within a work ticket. Special and miscellaneous items can be used as components and materials, not just parent items. We can import materials from a BOM or template during work ticket creation. We could track steps as change orders or reworks. This is really cool because if something in that order changes, I'm going to be able to track what that change was and be able to account for the costing or materials or time that it took to change that order. Same with rework. If I have to rework something because it failed inspection, no longer is that an outside process. I can capture all that information inside of production management and run reports to access that data. We can track step memos and then tracking of deleted work ticket steps and materials, just like it is. So we're giving you a lot more historical data, a lot more access to data, right? So like I said earlier, bringing more into Sage, giving Sage more power, building Sage out. Let's talk about the work ticket material transactions, okay? So you can do a material transaction from the work ticket entry screen directly with a dynamic inventory, depending on what your setup is. You can create a work ticket transaction from the work ticket entry, or you can create it from some sort of mobile import through the barcode table, whether it be shop floor or manufacturing 100. It will prevent issuing materials when it'll take quantity on hand to negative. So we're not going to allow you to take inventory negative. And we're going to automatic move to history upon work order close transaction update. So we're going to keep that work order in history and give you access to report on it. We're going to allow you to individually assign serial numbers to completed items as opposed to assigning the first and letting it automatically calculate the rest. So you can assign individual serial numbers rather than having it, sequentially assign them. And I told you guys, a lot of information we have to get through. I do appreciate it. I wanted to make sure we talked about all these slides and get through them so that when you go back, you can kind of filter through and find the specific area like work ticket reporting and utilities that you have a question on, and you can kind of see what production management can and can't do in regards to legacy work order, or if you're looking at operations management. But for work ticket reports and utilities, we give you an employee productivity report, and then all of the reports are now crystal reports. So, work order and some of the legacy software has reports and reporting set up and built outside of Sage. All of the production management reports are going to be crystal reports. So, normalizing all the different integration pieces is the name of the game. All right. So let's talk about some additional modules that production management integrates into and what the difference is here. So in payroll, we can use already set up employees. We can create paychecks based on labor or punch in, punch out, right? So we have the ability to integrate into the payroll module. The accounts payable, we could post direct costs to the work ticket. Not much changed on a purchase order. as far as work order and production management. But in inventory management, we made it easy to cross-reference as to where material is issued. All right, so work ticket number uses as the reference field in an inventory transaction. All right, so we make it easy to find where that material was issued from. Also, the procurement method has been expanded. Buy to stock, buy to order, make to stock, rather than just make to buy. Also, you're going to have down here, you're going to have, if you have the ability and you go with PM Plus, you will have make to order procurement in here as well. But standard Sage production management is going to be make to stock. Then the bill of materials. Bill of materials is not required. So, you know, you can make a ticket on its own and add your steps and your materials if you want. You can also create a ticket based off a bill, no problem. And again, bill options and all that stuff, not a problem with production management. And then the standard and bill options can have the work ticket template and revision assigned within the bill of material. It's going to be for routing purposes only with work order, but we give you everything with production management. So go ahead and assign the work ticket template and revision to the bill of material. So there's a lot of differences between work order and production management. Really, like I said at the beginning, we make it's really revolved around making it more user-friendly and more efficient, giving you the ability to control how it looks, how it operates, and what information you see, and giving you the ability to complete transactions in a dynamic sense, and the ability to get all of that information and keep it inside of Sage, so you can run reports and find out what's going on, and just you can peel back that onion a lot easier, right? So let's take a look at Sage production management. Let's do it. But before we do that, we got to talk about a couple things. There's some naming conventions that are a little different, right? Work order, you're going to hear me say work ticket a lot. I still throw in work order here or there, and it might confuse some people, but work order, work ticket, same thing. Routing is what we will call a template. Some people might call them steps, but a template is going to have predefined steps and materials. Operation code is now an activity code. The traveler is now work ticket printing, right? So if I'm printing a work ticket, that's going to be like printing out a work ticket traveler. So what is Sage production management, right? So in the early 2000s, from what I understand, GL and Library Master were rewritten into object-oriented code, all right? Work order, bringing work order into object-oriented code was the last step on that 20-year voyage to normalize the Sage database. So your work order is now in the new business framework. It's funny, you keep hearing the new business framework is 20 years old. So I guess it's just the business framework. So it's object-oriented code. So for those of you coders and developers out there, you already know what that means. Just gives you more flexibility, more control, more capabilities as far as the actual construction of the software. But it's important to know that's a migration path from work order to a business framework manufacturing. It's not a rewrite. It's not something that's completely rewritten. It's a migration. It's an upgrade. It's an update. The guts are a little different, but the concept, the vision, the idea is all still there. Your production management will require Sage 2019 or higher. You know, that's a little old because Sage is going to be releasing 2022 here in a little while, and then 2019 is going to be a little outdated. So we always recommend you work with your Veracruz partner and deploy the latest and greatest Sage version. But at the very minimum, we require Sage 2019. We've got make to stock capabilities, a little more robust than your standard work order, bringing in a little more options, a little more capabilities. But at the end of the day, it's still make to stock. We can use templates and revisions and bill options and things, but really it's make to stock. The big things are the dynamic inventory and dynamic labor if you go with the Sage subscription, right? That's that direct posting of of materials from the work ticket entry screen or the direct assigning of labor in that work ticket screen. Editing the work ticket after it releases, cost analysis. Everything's just simpler. We add in the ability to create UDFs. We can add UDFs to tables. We can even add tables. That's all part of bringing it into the new business framework. It allows you to work with it like many of your other Sage modules. And then again, all of the reports are crystal, and you have a bunch of scripting capabilities in there that you can take advantage of. So it's just like, I had a conversation with a gentleman the other day, and he said, well, it's work order and production management. It does the same thing. I said, well, they're both a car, just production management is a new car. Your work order is a 30-year-old car. So just think about the difference between a 30-year-old car and a new car. They both get you from point A to B, but the new car is going to get you there in a much more efficient way, and it's going to provide a lot more data along the way and give you access to all those things that you want, all that technology. So that's I use that analogy a lot, and it seems to help. So get out of that Hugo and get into a whatever new car that fits your bill. So those are kind of the overall some of the overall differences. And on the right, you're going to actually see a work ticket entry screen, right? So this is when I've created a work ticket. This is what it looks like. So it's got a clean look. It's got lots of room to add in UDFs or tables or additional things that might be specific to what you need. We're OEM developers, so we can work with that. Your Vracus is more than capable of helping you identify those needs and work down those processes. We always recommend you use a software as it's designed before talking about, hey, let's customize this, let's change this, let's add this. But there are times where it's required, not a problem. All right, so some of this is going to be kind of repeat, but I wanted you to be able to see it here. And maybe I'll probably just pop over to my demo and just kind of look at it so I can fly around, because these screenshots are static, but I want to show you a couple things that are pretty cool. So remember, on the steps tab, we can renumber, add, change steps. We're tracking original revised budgets, the status, linking a step to a PO. Let's take a look at what that looks like. I'm gonna pop over to my demo, and there we go. Pull up Sage, and in here you'll see production management, and you'll see here work ticket entry. All right, so this is where I'm going to be able to come in here and create a work ticket entry. So I'm going to work ticket. Now I'm just going to pull a work ticket that I have in here real quick, just to show you. And we're not going to have time to run through everything. But here's that header step that I was just on over here. If I go to the steps, you'll see first, look, we can resize the window. Look at this. Woo! Right? So I can move my window over here so I can see everything, but you'll see all these additional tabs and fields. I want to talk about real quick. You'll see my rework step. If we talked about reworking a step, you know, or changing that order. You know, our activity codes are in here. Where's my status? There's my status. If I want to be looking at the status, I can bring status in here and looking at the status for the steps. You see all the stuff is moving around. If I want to move steps, I can move them around or get rid of them, or however I want to do. So I can kind of got a lot more control over my manufacturing process. Materials are a step. If I want to link it to a purchase order, I can do that. And if once items are linked to a purchase order, that'll be shown displayed here. I could come to the materials tab, and this is what I was trying to show you. And if I want to purchase a specific material because I don't want to wait on it being produced, or maybe I'm out, I can create and generate purchase orders straight from this window here. And again, all of these individual additional fields are available to drag on, so you can set up your work ticket entry screen to show you exactly what you want based on the information that's provided here. So on the materials, you can add materials to a step a lot of different ways. You can manually do it. Like I said, create the work ticket, then create steps and add the materials. You can bring it in from a template, right, or a template revision. You can do it through a bill of materials, or we can even do it through a flat file. So if you've got a flat file, want to create materials for a work ticket, Those are for when the work ticket's already created, right? So the work ticket's already made, we got to add materials to it. There's a number of ways to get it on there. You saw I can link material to a PO, alias item, cross-reference lookups, change materials as I need, move things around. It makes it just really dynamic for me to be able to just, do what I want with this work ticket rather than being, stuck to the way it was initially created. So the name of the game is flexibility, so you can move on your feet, right? And if something changes in a moment's notice, you have the ability to change in a moment's notice as well, and not get left behind. And then also issuing materials from the work within that actual work ticket screen, is going to be dynamic and only for your Sage 100C subscription. I do not have that. I'm not on subscription right here on my demo machine, so I'm not going to be able to show you, but get with your Sage 100, your Vracus rep, and they can show you exactly what that looks like. But that dynamic inventory and dynamic labor is a big deal for folks. All right, so the totals tab, we talked about the totals tab earlier. It gives you an at-a-glance look. All right, so I'll just go into this ticket and go to the totals, and you'll see where it's got my budget, current, projected variable, variance, and my per unit. All right, so all of that information that we're integrating, capturing in production management and applying to the work ticket, whether it be material steps or billing or labor, is all going to be rolled up into the totals and give you the ability to pull advanced analytics and reporting on your production. So you can take a look at what's going on and decide what you need to do down the road. Let's see, cost per unit being manufactured, print the cost analysis, filter the cost analysis by step. So a lot of options here for you to configure production management to match either your processes or your reporting needs. Got a little behind here. Okay, here we go. So some important release information. All right. There's a migration wizard that converts work order data to production management. Right. So you got to work with your. Told you there's some very specific or complex, robust install and user guides. Please work with your Vracus rep closely to make sure that this is done correctly. Production management will make work order read-only on a system where it coexists. Work order historical data does not convert. So if you've got a ton of work order historical data and you throw a PM on there without making the proper backups, you're going to lose all that. So, it's very important that you work with the partner to follow the right steps, especially if you have other third-party vendors or multi-bin or any other software in there. It's really important to let them manage that migration. It's available for Sage 100 and Sage 100 subscription. The subscription is going to give you dynamic labor and materials, and the perpetual is just going to be, your transaction base. You're going to have to complete the transaction, material transaction, and post it and update the registers or update the ticket to get those to pull through and roll up. So Sage 100 cloud subscription is what everybody's moving to. So take advantage of that dynamic labor and dynamic materials. I'd like to talk real quick about something that we've added in here. And, so production management is the make to stock software like we talked about. I'm actually going to go in here and talk about this. So I'm going to go into my sales order module, right? And I'm going to go into my sales order option. But wait, Phil, production management is make to stock. You got to make the work ticket in production management, make the ticket and do the completion to get the inventory. Well, that is how it was originally created, but we have created and added in make to order functionality inside of Production Management Plus. So when you buy Production Management Plus, we bring in the 9th tab in your sales order option, and it gives you some additional capabilities for your make to order. We can control the work ticket class upon automatic completion. We can create work tickets for every line in a sales order. We can create them for lines that we designate. We can prompt and have it ask. We can control who can make work tickets. So, and how that's done. So really the idea is we give you the ability. Some people were pigeonholed, say, hey, you know, I want production management, but I got to be able to, you know, I've got a sales order, the 100 lines. I got to be able to create work tickets for some of those or all of those. And I don't want to go in and have to do it individually, or I want to do it automatically. And for the last year or so, that was a kind of a roadblock for a lot of legacy work order customers who had some of the make to order efficiencies built in from the legacy software set. Not anymore. If you've got some light make to order capabilities as far as creating work tickets from the sales order line, production management is going to give you that capability as well. All right. So I want to thank you all for your time. You know, like I said at the beginning, there's a lot of information here, a handful of slides that are going to be really important for you to reference back, especially the first, when you're talking about your work order and production management differences. Please review that and make sure you understand the differences. And then once you understand the differences of those, please review the difference between operations management and production management with your Veracus rep to understand exactly where you're going. And if production management is the solution, you're going to have a fully integrated, step-based, date-based manufacturing solution that's going to allow you to, you know, just get a grip on those manufacturing processes, streamline that, and at the end of the day, save time, save money.